Hi there everyone, Leia here from Reading in Trees. This is my first impromptu video. I just had a break in my schedule, kind of, I'm hoping, enough to do a quick video, completely unscripted, virtually unplanned. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. Some people seem to just throw up videos, they're putting their makeup on before they go meet their friends and then they put up the video later and bang, 100,000 views. I'm not deluded. I know that I'm not going to get 100,000 views, but even if I got 20 views, that's a plus for me. I'm grateful for whatever I get. I thought it might be kind of fun to do it as well. So these are the books that I want to read in the month of June. Some of them might be cheating, considering that I have kind of dipped into them already. The first one is Ursula K. Le Guin's The Word for World is Forest. And this is a book that I've had on my to-read list for a really long time. I read The Dispossessed many years ago and wasn't overly thrilled with it in terms of storytelling, or character development or anything like that, but I really liked the ideas that it explored, because I'm a long-term kind of I have an interest in alternative political governance or ways of kind of running societies, and anarchism is one of the things that I'm very interested in. So that book explores that. And but then not so long ago I started reading her Earthsea Cycle books, and I absolutely fell in love with them. I don't think they're perfect. I don't really have to say that, do I? Because when do we come across perfect books? But I think that I didn't know after reading The Dispossessed that she had the capacity to write that kind of immersive fantasy and absolutely believable characters, and characters that you really come to feel are that and that you really care about, really fleshed out. And of course she has enough books to kind of flesh out characters over a long period of time, over their entire life really. Some of them. She works magic in the Earthsea Cycle books, which are actually written for children or young adults, but anybody can read them in my opinion. So I am reading this one, and it's right up my alley, you would think, because if you've seen any of my videos thus far, you'll know that I'm a bit of a tree hugger, and this book is exploring environmental pillaging, destruction, exploitation of the environment, exploitation of indigenous peoples. Also, I believe the idea of how a peace-loving people can be kind of corrupted by the invasion of another culture or by the persecution of them by another people. How in defending yourself, essentially, you can kind of lose an aspect of your culture that was like the most valuable part of it. The other book that I started reading already is In This Together: Connecting with Your Community to Fight the Climate Crisis by Marianne E. Krasny. What it's about is, as far as I can tell, how we can best as individuals, what we can do in terms of changing aspects of our lifestyle, or simple choices we can make, and then also how we can work with our communities as a collective to have an impact on mitigating climate change, and or creating a better society for ourselves and our descendants. And so far I find it to be a little bit disparate in terms of like it covering many different topics, which is good. You could say it's like sort of an index of things you could do, so that people can choose from that what works for them. And I think that's probably what she's setting out to do, but it's a sort of shallow introduction to lots of different areas. I also get the impression that it's not going to be very radical, but it's probably going to be pragmatic. This is another nonfiction exercised. These days I read a lot of nonfiction. I still love my fiction, but I don't know, I'm going through a phase of getting a lot out of nonfiction, or educating myself, I suppose. It's called Exercised: Why Something We Never Evolved to Do is Healthy and Rewarding. So that's kind of interesting. We never evolved to do it. Well, we never evolved to exercise. We surely did evolve being active, but I guess they're saying this sort of intentional exercise for exercise's sake is unnatural. I bought this book ages ago, but I'm particularly interested these days because I'm doing more exercise. I'm making time for myself in a way that I haven't been for years. And that's because I got a little bit of a health scare. But in 3 months or 4 months' time, we'll have another checkup and we'll see. And in the meantime, I am all gung ho in terms of fitness and health, and I'm eating as healthily as I can. And I am trying to work out more every day, preferably. And yeah, so this seems particularly germane to my life at the moment. And I know nothing about it except that it's somewhat scientific. And yeah, I'll let you know at the end of the month. The second novel that I would like to read this month is a Korean author's novel, Sok-yong, Matter 2-10 or 210. I'm not really sure how I should say it. It's translated by Sora Kim Russell and Youngjae Josephine Bae. And Bae, actually, is the correct way to say it. I picked this up because, I mean, it just looks like an interesting book. It's about a guy who, I will read you the blurb in a moment. I actually lived in Korea for about a decade in all, and I am somewhat au fait with Korean culture. And I don't speak the language fluently, to my shame. I kind of get by somewhat with it, but I am eternally interested in Korea and it remains relevant to my life. So I want to read this one. International Booker nominated virtuoso Hwang Sok-yong is back with another powerful story, an epic tale that threads together a century of Korean history. In contemporary Seoul, a laid-off worker stages a months-long sit-in atop a 16-story factory chimney. During the long and lonely nights, he talks to his ancestors, chewing on the meaning of life, on wisdom passed down the generations. Through the lives of those ancestors, 3 generations of railroad workers, Matter 210 vividly portrays the struggles of ordinary Koreans, starting from the Japanese colonial era, continuing through liberation and right up to the 21st century. It is at once a gripping account of a nation's longing to be free from oppression, a lyrical folk tale that reflects the blood, sweat, and tears shed by modern industrial labourers, and a culmination of Hwang's career, a masterpiece 30 years in the making. A true voice of a generation, Hwang shows again why he is unmatched when it comes to depicting the roots and reality of a divided nation and bringing to life the trials and tribulations of the Korean people. So that might give me an opportunity to actually talk a little bit about my experience in Korea, maybe in a video. We'll see. So to be perfectly realistic about this, I am not somebody who gets to cover an awful lot of books, and that makes me perhaps a poor candidate for a successful booktuber. But I'm going to have to be a little bit optimistic and push myself to read more and make the time for it. But I'm not, reading's not my only hobby, and I do have other things to do in my life. But I will. I also like to kind of, I guess I'm a mood reader to some extent. I like to have a choice to pick from, and that's why I don't generally do TBRs, because I like to just go to my shelf and go, I feel like reading this or whatever. But I'm going to give myself a selection, and they're all books that I really want to read, so I probably won't complain as I go along. And this is an experiment for me too, just to see if I can do TBRs. I have my science book kind of book, and I have my environmental activism book, and I have a couple of novels, but I don't like have a psychology book, right? So that's why I might add, yeah, I'm gonna add this one to the list. Oh, look, the price is on it. I got it discounted. So anyway, this is just making a mess. So Humble, The Quiet Power of an Ancient Virtue, Daryl Van Tongeren, I think, or Tongeren, PhD. So this is a thing that it's a value of mine. I guess it's a value that a lot of people share. But I often feel like people mistake humility for low self-esteem. And if anything, in my experience, or according to my perception of other people, I think the people who tend to be humble, and this is not always true, people who tend to be humble tend to be the people who actually have the highest or most healthy self-esteem, and who accept themselves as they are and don't have to tell themselves a lie about like kind of brush over their flaws in order to kind of get by and be able to function. I think that like having a good sense of self-esteem involves also accepting the parts of you that are not perfect and loving yourself essentially. People laugh when I say that, like love yourself, but you do have to love yourself. I think it should be almost a truism. If you want to have a healthy kind of motivation to pursue things, to if you want to enjoy your life, if you want to have healthy relationships, I think you have to have self-love. And I think that if you do accept yourself completely, it's easier to be humble. And there are a lot of advantages in life to being humble. And if you're at a place where you're comfortable with humility, I think that's a good sign. And I'm not talking about putting yourself down all the time. But anyway, this is a topic. God, I made it long-winded. This is a topic that I'm very interested in. And I think he's talking, I'll just quickly scan the back. Yeah, so actually, funnily enough, without me having read the back in a really long time, this seems to be covering kind of what I was talking about, the idea that there are advantages to being humble, that humility has been misperceived, and that it is actually a kind of alternative to the self-esteem movement or positive psychology, and that we should instead be embracing this idea of like embracing humility and what it really is. And, oh, I should read at the bottom. There's a quote from Confucius: "Humility is the solid foundation of all virtues," no less. So I'm going to choose one more book. I have a few thrown out on the bed. I'm going to make it a nature book. And you know what? I'm going to go for something on the shelf. This is something I've wanted to read for a while. Or should I go for the tree line? Let me see. You know what? I might actually show you the two books and then let people decide for me as to which one I read. Might put up a poll or something. So I want to read a nature book this month. And there are two candidates. Again, I have a big red discount sticker on the front of it. So The Tree Line, The Last Forest and the Future of Life on Earth, Ben Rawlins, yes, shortlisted for the James Cropper Wainwright Prize. The Arctic tree line is the front line of climate change, where the trees have been creeping towards the pole for 50 years already. So I'm not going to read the whole blurb, but basically it's looking at how the tree line is moving northward with climate change, sometimes rapidly, and the significance of these northern forests, and how we are actually animals of the forest, and what this means for us as well, and how we've co-evolved with forest. So that's the first option. And the second nature-related book is After They're Gone, Extinctions Past, Present and Future by Peter Marin. And there's a short enough, oh, there's no blurb. There's, let's see, there are a couple of, what are they called when writers commend the book? I can't remember. Anyway, we are in the midst of an extinction event, the 6th mass extinction on Earth, and one entirely caused by mankind and womankind. No, let's be real, mankind. Just joking. All species become extinct sooner or later, but we have accelerated that natural process several hundredfold, and now it is happening right in front of our eyes. Extinction has a terrifying finality to it, and many species have already been lost to us forever. There is little we can do about that. What we can do, however, is reflect, remember, and ultimately acknowledge the unvarnished truth. We must see the natural world as it is, and not as we might want it to be. Our trajectory is one that has benefited one species alone, humankind. For all other beings, from mammals to fish, from birds to insects and coral, from plants to lichens and fungi, the future, for better or worse, is in our hands. So that was the other candidate. But I forgot. There's actually another book that I started reading by Kohei Sato called Slow Down, How Degrowth Communism Can Save the Earth, or Save the World. And yeah, that so far has been really, really interesting. I don't know how I forgot this. I'm not going to read all these books. I'm going to try, but I'm probably going to fail. But anyway, this book is promising to invest, or I suppose, present degrowth communism as an alternative to capitalism. But so far I've only gotten to the part of the book that is highly critical of capitalism and is implying that, or is claiming that, stabilizing the climate and capitalism are incompatible no matter what you do, even with donut economics and degrowth or a steady state economy. It's not enough. We have to get rid of capitalism, period. That's more than enough books on my TBR for June, and it's already into June. So that was my first TBR video. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe later on I'll put up a poll and you can choose my nature book, I call it. Should come up with a better name for the categories of books that I read, but I do like to read about nature. I do like to read about, say, like natural history, I guess. And at the end of the month, I guess I'll have to do a wrap up and let you know how poorly I did in getting through all these books. And before that, perhaps I'll have another video up. I'm coming into a really, really busy period in terms of my work. So I can't make any major promises, but I certainly will put up a video at least like this, something, informal, by the end of June. And, again, thanks for watching. I appreciate it so much. Till the next video, stay well, stay curious, and stay reading.